Mimer, Amzu Ytzarti, and it's a mimer of the Rebbe from Tafshin Yud Beis, like the latest memorim of the Dvar Malchus have been from the year Tafshin Yud Beis, and it is on the pasuk in this week's Haftarah, the beginning of this week's Haftarah. So it says, Amzu Ytzarti, I have formed this nation, Li, for my sake, Ilasi Saperu, they shall relate my praises. In other words, this is the reason why Hashem made us, that we should relate the Abish's praises, we should tell Hashem's praises. Isa the Gemara, it brought down the Gemara. The Gemara likes to make a play off of the same word being used for different entities, people, etc. So it speaks about the idea of Zu. Am Zu Yatzarti. Zu is going on Klal Yisrael. So it's going to speak about, in the word Zu and Za, which is just the feminine and masculine, the same thing, we find it's going on Klal Yisrael, it's going on Hashem, it's going on Torah, it's going on Moshe. Later on the Maimer, he will actually bring the psukim that say which goes on which. But now I'm just going to say it in short. So it's brought down the Gemara. Yavai Zeh, let this one come. Zeh is going on Moshe. We're going to bring later on the pasuk why Zeh goes on Moshe. V'yakabel Zois, and you will receive a Zois is going on the Torah. Mizeh, from Zeh goes on Hashem. La'amzu, to this nation, meaning to Am Yisrael. So Moshe came, took the Torah from Hashem and gave it to this nation. And it's all hinted in the Hebrew word Zeh and Zu. And the Gemara says, the main part that's important for our Maimer is Amzu. Where do we see that the nation of Klal Yisrael is called by the term Zeh or Zu? So we have this in the pasuk of this week's Haftarah. Eli Yisrael, this is going on the Yidden. Shnamar Amzu Yitzarti, that says about the Yidden, this is the nation that I have formed. Similar to that, is brought down the Mechilt on the pasuk. Now we have in Oz Yashur, it says, until this nation, Amzu, will pass, that you acquire. So he says a very interesting thing. The Mechilta says, the Kol Olam Shalcha, the entire world belongs to you, belongs to the Eibishter. The Ein L'cha Am El Yisrael, but the only nation that you have is Yisrael. How do we see that the only nation the Eibishter has is Yisrael? Shenemar Amzu Yatzarti, this nation I have formed for me. So that's the Amzu Kanisa. And then the Mechilta goes on and says, Yisrael Nikru Kinyan, Yidden are called Hashem's acquisition. Shenemar Amzu Kanisa, as it says, this nation you have acquired. So now the Maimer, the Rebbe is going to explore the whole gist of the Maimer is going to be exploration of the Zeh and the Zu that Yidden are called, and also by extension all the other things that we're going to talk about are called by Zeh or Zu. He says, we need to understand what is the advantage, what is the quality of the words Zeh and Zu. Shal Zeh Amru, concerning this, the Chazal said, Yavei Zeh, let this one come, which is going on Moshe Rabbeinu. Be a Kabul, will see the title, which is called Zois, from Zeh, which is Hashem. La'amzu, to this nation. So now the Maimer is going to say that the Gemara also does the same thing with three other words. It's a very similar type of thing, that it says, Adir is going on Hashem, and Adir is going on the Yidden, and Adir is going on the Torah, and the same thing Yedid is going on Hashem, and Yedid is going on, and Moshe, and Toiv is going on Hashem, and so on. But the Rebbe says like this: when it comes to other expressions, that makes sense. These are titles of importance. Adir, a mighty one. Yedid, the friend, a beloved. Toiv is good. So we can understand why we make a big deal about those words and connect with Hashem, connect with Yid, connect with Moshe Rabbeinu, and so on. But Zeh and Zu, what's the significance of Zeh and Zu? Let's see it inside. Line 9. It makes sense what the Gemara says earlier in that same Gemara that speaks about let Zeh come and take from the Zois and give it to Zu. So it says prior to that, Yahweh Adir Chulu, Yahweh Yedid Chulu, Yahweh Toiv, let the mighty one come and receive, let the friend and beloved come, let the good one come. And again, over there, the Gemara also brings psukim that Yidden are called by these titles, and the Torah, and Moshe, and Hashem, and so on. So that makes sense. These ideas of Adir, Yedid, and Toiv, these are descriptions of a quality of someone. He is an Adir, he's a mighty one, he's a good one, he's a friend. But when it says, let the one who is called Zeh come, and then let him give the Zeis to the Zu from Zeh, it's Maya Mila begins there. We need to understand what's the significance, what's the advantage of Zeh, that we should make such a big deal that all of these things, Moshe Rabbeinu, Yidden, Torah, and Hashem are all called Zeh. What's the significance? What's the advantage? Line 14. Gamsar Lahav, and also we need to understand in your Amr Azal Chazal said, Kol Anavim Nisnabu B'Koi. All the prophets said Koi. When they said prophecy, it said Koi Amr Hashem. Like this Hashem said. Moshe Nisnabu B'Zeh. Moshe prophesied with Zeh. Zeh Hadavar Asher Dibra Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu said, this is the matter. What's the difference between Koi and Zeh? Koi, the Chazal explained, means that they only saw something like what the truth was. They didn't see clearly the picture. They saw it through different types of riddles and metaphors and so on. And they saw like this. Moshe Rabbeinu saw directly. Moshe Rabbeinu saw Zeh, which indicates a higher level of revelation. It says in line 16, Moshe is only the one that's applicable to the level of Zeh. If that's the case, that only Moshe is connected and applies by him the level of Zeh. How do we say that all Yidden are on the level of Zu? Amzu. Seemingly, it's very unique. Moshe Rabbeinu stood out. He was distinct from all the other Nevi'im. Only he had to do with Zeh and Zu. Like we said, it's really the same thing. It's two sides of the same coin. How all of a sudden do we say that Moshe Rabbeinu was the only one on the level of Zeh? And then now all of a sudden we say all Yidden are connected and are the level of Zu. Line 18, another question. And also we need to understand, why does it say this nation I have formed for me? It uses Zu, which is the feminine form. Seemingly, you should have said top of page above, Zeh, Lashon Zachar. You should have used the word Zeh in the masculine. Perhaps you'll tell me, maybe when you're using the word Am, the Torah uses Zu in the feminine. So he says, no, he's going to bring a proof that even when we use the word Am, we still use the masculine form Zeh. Like it says, Ki Amcha HaGoya Zeh. So we see that for Klal Yisrael, we can still use the masculine form of Zeh. Madua Namar Amzu Ytzarti, Amzu Ga'alta, Amzu Kanisa Lashon Keva. Why do we use the term, this nation you formed, this nation you redeemed, this nation you acquired, but we use it with the word Zu instead of Zeh in the feminine. This will be understood by first prefacing explaining what the Chazal said that we mentioned before. All the Nevi'im, when they said prophecy, used the word Koi, like Koi Amar Hashem. Moshe did not say like this Hashem said. Moshe said Zeh Hadavar Shedibra Hashem. The difference between these two expressions of this or like this. The descriptive word Zeh indicates that this is the very thing the way it is. He recognizes the matter exactly in all the details. That's what it means Zeh. This is exactly what it is. What's the description of the word Koi, like this? He doesn't recognize and know the matter in all of its details exactly. It's only like this. It's somewhat like this. That's what it means. And all the prophets said prophecy with the word koi. Why was that so? Because they did not see the prophecy clearly. That their prophecy was not through what's called a luminous lens. That's the literal translation. In other words, it wasn't a clear prophecy. It wasn't like looking through a clear glass where you see things clearly. By the other Nevi'im, there wasn't a revelation by them down here below. They were a Navi in a physical body in this world. So what they perceived in the physical body down here in the physical world, it was not exactly the way it was above. There was some interference. It didn't come out the clear picture. As opposed to Moshe Rabbeinu, he prophesied with the terms because when he was down here below, it was exactly the way it was Natzilus. So therefore, he could say Zeh Davar. He saw down here exactly the way the things were in the spiritual realms. Just like in Atzilus, Hashem was one with his life forces and one with his bodies, meaning one with the iris and Kalim with the intellect and the emotions. Hashem was completely united with the spheres of the world. In such a level, Moshe was also down here below, that he had that unity with Hashem. That the Shekhinah would speak out of his own throat. Meaning that's how united Moshe Rabbeinu was with the Eibishter, that he just opened his mouth and the Shekhinah just expressed itself through his mouth. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu's nevuah used the term zeh, not koi, because it was identical. What Moshe Rabbeinu experienced and gave over in this world was identical to the way it was in the higher world. The explanation of this matter is that Zeh, he's going to explain, is a very high and lofty level. Rebbe is going to explain over here that the word Zeh, the description of Zeh, is only applicable on matters of holiness. Why only on matters of holiness? Because all other matters, you cannot point to them and say Zeh. This always brings. That's why it says Zeh Keli Van Veim. Only on Elikus, on Keli, is it possible to say and point and say Zeh. He points with his finger and says Zeh. Why? Why is it only exclusive to Elikus and Kedusha? It says on top of page Zayin, Shezehu Mehus Hadavar. Because Elikus is the very being of the matter. Because what is visible to the naked eye, in other words, the externalities of the world, the physicality of the world, that's not the very being of the thing. What does that mean? The very essence of the thing is the goal that because of it, it was created. Let me give a very basic explanation. Let's say I look at a computer and I look at a calculator. Let's look at the word computer and the word calculator. Am I looking at computations? Am I looking at calculations? No. I'm looking at a box of plastic and metal and wires and switches and so on. Yet, what do I call that box? I call it a computer. What do I call a smaller box? I call it a calculator. Because we don't look at the externals. The externals are not what it is. It's not a box. It's not metal. What's the Malchus? What's the very purpose, the goal of this box of wires and metal and plastic and so on? To compute things. What's the purpose of this other plastic thing? Calculations. So to be able to identify a thing, to be able to say that you know the thing, you need to identify the goal of the thing, the purpose, the meaning of the thing, what it's there for. So therefore, in our world, what is visible? What's visible is not the purpose. What's visible is the gashmis. So gashmis, you can't call it zeh. It's not the thing. It's not what it is. Line 3, mashenira, what is visible in our world, it's only the external aspect of it alone. That the externality is subsidiary to, ancillary to the purpose and the goal, which the purpose and the goal is the true being of the thing. And what's the proof? The proof is we call objects by their goals. We don't call them a mass of wires and plastic and metal. We call it a computer. We call it a calculator, because that is its true identity. So therefore, and only in kedusha is it possible to say zeh. In matters of kedusha, what you see, that is the zeh, that is the mahus hadavar. It's not an intermediary for something else, like the box of wires is an intermediary to compute things. So it's not the wires, it's the computations that it's going to have, it's going to make. But in Kedusha, it's not for something else. The physical is for the purpose of Kedusha, but the Kedusha is not for something else. The goal, the purpose of Kedusha is Kedusha itself. Now the Rebbe says even deeper in Kedusha itself, what is the true zeh, that we can actually say this is what it is, and it is, there's nothing else behind it. So he says, line 9, in truth, it's only possible to say the descriptive term of zeh only in Hashem's very essence. The kivan sha'atzmus mitzius imatzmus, since Hashem's essence, his entire being, comes from his own self. He is the true existence, because he is independent of anything else. There's nothing that makes him. He is always, and he is, his isness is always there. Therefore, in Hashem's essence, it's applicable to say the term zeh, but anything that's not Hashem's essence, even in Kedusha, even a ray of Hashem, it's not possible to describe it with the descriptive term of zeh, since it's not its true existence, since the, let's say, the ray of godliness is dependent on Hashem's essence. So its true existence is not itself. Just like we say the world is not a real existence because it's always dependent upon the Chayes Elokei bringing it to being. The same thing, the godly life force in the spiritual worlds that are only a ray of Hashem, they are dependent on Hashem's essence, so they don't truly exist. I knew, he says in the parentheses, Shadavar Hadira Eina Mahusay, the what's visible, in other words, even the ray of godliness is not its true being. He called Mahusay Rak Masada Atzmus, because its entire being is only because of Hashem's essence. So therefore, when you're looking at something, you can't say Zeh. The Oir, that's not what it really is, because behind the Oir, there's the Atzmus. So when you trace it down, you drill down all the way to the source. What's the real Zeh? The real Zeh is Hashem's very essence. Any questions before we go on?
This seems to answer the question. Like if you ask somebody, why are you working? To get money. Why you want money? To buy food. Why you want to buy food? To live. Why do you want to live? to work, otherwise you're in a loop.
Exactly. So that's the reason why all these things are not called Zeh. Whereas by a Yid, he works to Torah mitzvahs to connect to the Eibishter, and that's Zeh. That's the point that he's going to say right now. Hashem is Zeh, and because of a Yid's connection with Hashem through Torah mitzvahs, so a Yid is also Zeh. And the Torah which connects him to Hashem is called Zois, because only they have the true existence, has the true being, have the true, are real. Everything else is for something else, or created or made via something else. It's not its true nature. Okay, page Zion, line 17, Oizgim. Even though we just now said, and we drilled down and we said that Zeh is only Hashem's very essence, but because of Hashem, Yidden's connection with Hashem, so Zeh is also applicable by Yidden. As you can see now, we're seeing now amazing stuff about the word Zeh that we asked initially. Zeh, why are we describing Hashem, Yidden, Torah, Malchus, Zeh? Who cares about Zeh? What's so special about Zeh? Now we see Zeh is a very special thing. How by Yidden is it applicable, the term Zeh? V'hainu mitzadat veikis, the Yisrael ba'atma saying Saf Baruch Hu, because of Yidden's connection and cleaving to the very essence of Hashem. You might remember, like it says, v'atma veikim, that you are cleaving. L'davka ba, you should cleave to him. V'lachta b'derachav, you shall go in his ways. That itself, that cleaving as well. And also v'chein mitzadat veikis, the Yisrael araisim kutshabrichu kulachat. Also because the oneness and the joining of Yidden and Torah and Hashem are entirely one. Therefore, the kivun shatz musi is barach mitzius matz musai, since Hashem's very essence, his being comes from himself. Therefore, by Yidden, there's also something similar as if he's coming from himself. What's that mean? It's also applicable to them. The description of that. So in footnote 21, he says about a sicher, where the Rebbe speaks about the fact that a Yid can take klippus and transform it. He also speaks about it on the left side of the page in the commentary, that this power of being able to transform klippus into kedusha, that has to do with the idea of his chadshus. That's like yesh ma'ayin. That's like creating something from nothing. And that creation of something from nothing is a manifestation of Hashem's very essential nature, that he comes from himself. As we know, the creation of something from nothing is only from something that truly comes from nowhere, which is Hashem's very essence. But be that as it may, we have, because of the Yid's connection with Hashem, so therefore, Yidden are called Zeh. By extension, Torah is also called Zois Torah, because they're also connected with Hashem. Now the Rebbe adds 2 lines from the bottom, in addition to this, since Hashem's desire and will was, top of page Ches, the Eibishter wanted that what the Yidden do and what the Yidden receive and attain should not be in a way of bread of shame. They should not get it for free, they should earn it. Rather, a person should get it through their work, and by his free choice, it should be something that he freely chooses to do. For that reason, he is the So then the Eibishter had to make something to counter the Zeh of a Yid. And I'm not sure, but I think the Rebbe is playing off the word Zeh again. Zeh l'umazeh. That in Klippa, there's something that tries to put itself forth as Zeh, to counter the Zeh that a Yid can connect with through Torah mitzvahs. It says, he created the physical world in such a way that the physical world seems to be that it comes from itself. And we said that before, that is the reason why Hashem's very essence is called Zeh, because it comes from its very self. So there's nothing making it. So this is all it is. There's nothing besides it. So the world presents itself, the world looks like it's also a Zeh. There's nothing more here. There's no God, there's nothing. I came for myself. Until the world is filled with clips that say that to me is denial, and I made myself, and I is all there is, and there's nothing else. So to be able to be free choice, Hashem made that in Klippus also there's the level that presents itself. It tries to show itself as a protis, more specifically in a gamma sitra achra atzmam, also the sitra achra itself in truth is aware that there's nothing beside it. Sitra achra is only presenting itself in such a way of zeh, but sitra achra itself is aware of the truth that the true zeh is only Hashem. But how come does it present itself that way to us? The Sitra Achra was given permission to confuse the person and to seduce him and to convince him about following Klippa. Chazal say that Moshe Rabbeinu said there were certain things in the Torah that might allow itself to be misinterpreted for the negative. So Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, you write the way I'm telling you, and whoever wants to make a mistake, let him go make a mistake. Because that is what Klippa was given the permission to be able to allow a person to have the freedom of choice. To such a degree that they can make a mistake and imagine that the entire being of the world and Klippa and so on came from itself, not from Hashem Chas v'Shalom. What's the purpose of it? The intention and purpose behind it is so we should withstand the test. Because through withstanding the test, the reward will be much greater. Like it's brought on the Zohar Mishal. He gives an analogy of the immodest woman that tries to convince the prince to do something wrong, but it's actually she was hired by the king to do so that the prince should demonstrate the strength of character and overcome her seduction. Ben the Zohar says when the prince withstand the test, then his reward is great. Pirish Hagdolas Ascharu, and the Rebbe explains what does it mean, the increase of the reward. Top of page test. When we use the word the increase of reward, it means a type of reward that there is no reward greater than it. The reward that was given up till now, before he had to withstand the test, is not the true great reward. Therefore, when we're talking about only now, it's the great reward, so we can understand that it must be the highest thing possible. Misunderstood. The growth and increase of the reward that happens through withstanding the test. The reward is the bond with Hashem's essence. It's not just a level where the Yid attains all different types of revelations and all different types of lights of Hashem, which is usually associated with Gan Eden, but rather he connects and bonds himself through withstanding the test with Hashem's very essence. That's the idea that says that Havaya is great and praised very much in the city of our God. Godless Ha'atzmus is referring not just to any greatness, but the greatness of Hashem's essence. Behind what this means, through the person withstanding the test. He is not affected by Sitra Achra's presenting itself as being Zeh, as being a true existence, as being something that is independent of everything. So when he overcomes the Zeh of Sitra Achra, through this, who he is one with Hashem's essence. That's why it's called Amzu, because he connected with Hashem's essence, because that's the great reward. That's the increased reward. That's the ultimate reward that can be, and that the Yid attains through overcoming the level of the Zev Sitrach. Any questions?